Well, with more on Biden's bid for a second term, we're happy to have back on the program David Levinthal, the editor-in-chief of Raw Story. Dave, good to see you.
Hey, thanks for having me back.
So here we have Biden deciding to run again, despite the many Democrats who were hoping he would not. Let's begin there. When we talk about Democratic Party members, how happy are they about this development?
There's lukewarm support for Joe Biden. You're not going to find too many Democrats who are just ecstatic and turning somersaults over the idea of Joe Biden having another 4 years. Now, they certainly want a Democrat in office. They want to retain the White House, but there is a kind of feeling and sensibility or sense among many Democrats that, all right, he's the president of the United States. We're going to support him and we're going to go full to the wall for Joe Biden. But were he to step away, it wouldn't be a disaster. And in fact, I think a lot of Democrats would feel that there would be other people, whether it's Kamala Harris or Pete Buttigieg, or you could list about 10 governors and senators who would be there to serve if Joe Biden had decided to step away.
Well, that makes me wonder about the vote itself then, because of course 2020 was really tight. If the base is not enthused about the candidate, how does that bode for the Democrats going into re-election?
So Joe Biden's poll numbers right now are not great. They're not great nationally. They are not great even within the Democratic Party, although, again, to underscore, most Democrats are going to support Joe Biden regardless. But yeah, enthusiasm, you would like to be going into a campaign feeling like you've got some tailwind behind you. Joe Biden has a lot of headwinds. That's the bad news. The good news, Michael, is that there's a lot of time here, and that Joe Biden also is going to be able to spend that time not running against other Democrats. This is not like 2020 in the sense that he's going to have a whole slew of opponents that he is running in a Democratic primary against. Yes, he'll have some token opposition from a couple of Democrats who've thrown their hat in, but I mean, they're pretty fringy. And Joe Biden is going to have, if not a cakewalk all the way to the Democratic nomination next year, he's going to have a pretty clear path. So he's going to be able to kind of sit back and watch the Republicans slog it out and slug it out, which is exactly what's going to happen with Donald Trump and any number of other candidates who are also going to enter the Republican fray, including several who already have.
Yeah, well, you know, when we talk about the Republicans, it was interesting to listen to Biden in his announcement, because he says his re-election run is about securing rights and freedom. So how much of this campaign is about issues like the right to choose and the Don't Say Gay law in Florida?
Quite a bit. And those are going to be the things that Joe Biden, you can almost certainly expect, are going to focus on. He is going to focus on those issues. He is going to lay this campaign out as a choice between what he brings to the table, which he was going to say is a sense of stability, a sense of optimism, pointing toward the future, and then contrasting and juxtaposing that with what he is going to say the Republicans offer, which is fear and, in his own words, loathing and hatred and lining up next to white supremacists. I mean, this is what you're going to hear from the Democratic Party and from Joe Biden when they try to more or less paint and tar Republicans with that type of messaging and rhetoric. So Republicans are going to, really have to get their own house in order before the general election ever begins. And Biden does have that opportunity to characterize Republicans almost free and clear without any intramural fighting within his own Democratic Party.
Mm-hmm. Well, without a doubt, there are some Americans out there who want to see a rematch of 2020. And you mentioned Donald Trump's bid to get the Republican nomination. I'm wondering whether or not Biden's announcement today strengthened Trump's campaign, because I wonder if it galvanizes Americans who believe in the so-called great lie that Biden allegedly stole the 2020 vote.
It may help around the margins. I mean, I think people who are supporting Donald Trump and are tried and true supporters who, no matter what Donald Trump says, no matter what Donald Trump does, they're going to love him, and they will love him to the end, however that ends, whether that's losing the election in 2024, whether that is falling victim to the numerous legal clouds that hang over his head at this point. We really don't know ultimately how Donald Trump's story will conclude as a political figure and a political entity. But in the meantime, yeah, I mean, I suppose a little bit that Joe Biden's announcement is going to stoke those still very smoldering embers of 2020. But at the same time, too, we're running in 2024. Donald Trump is going to have to make the case that he is a candidate for the 2024 election and not just somebody who is relitigating the election of 2020.
Yeah, and potentially facing indictment as well. So, let's also talk a bit about Kamala Harris here, because yes, we now have Biden running again. And when that video ends, you see the Biden-Harris slate. But there is speculation about Kamala Harris herself, the U.S. vice president, because she's faced criticism within the Democratic Party. There has been, I guess, speculation that Biden might choose a second person to run on the Democratic ticket and not Harris again. What do you hear about that?
Well, if you're looking for somebody in the Democratic Party who is even less popular than Joe Biden, you look to his vice president. Kamala Harris is not particularly well liked nationwide. She is liked well enough within the Democratic Party for, of course, her to remain on the ticket. And Joe Biden likes her, so that's what ultimately counts. He's got to pick his own running mate. So the status quo, both for Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, has won the day, at least today. I think, Michael, a question which, again, we have no idea what the future will hold, but if Joe Biden was to have to step away because of health issues or something over the course of this campaign, then what happens next? Would Kamala Harris just simply be the heir apparent? Would there be a Democratic primary? As you kind of play this parlor game, and I talk to Democrats about this, some do wonder if ultimately she could win an election against Donald Trump or any of the many other Republicans who are going to challenge Donald Trump for the Republican nomination. A question we don't have to worry about right now, but let's check back in a year and see what happens.
Oh, I suspect we'll be checking back sooner than a year, David Levinthal. But for now, thank you for this. Really appreciate the time.
Absolutely. Thank you, Michael.